What is going on, y'all? Welcome to another video. Today we're gonna be talking about ADHD, primarily my diagnosis. So if you yourself or someone you know has ADHD or autism and you're looking for tips and tricks to help manage it, then you're gonna want to hit the subscribe button. But anyways, let's jump into this. So my diagnosis, I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was in first grade. So that was, I believe, was in 2004. 2004, I was diagnosed with ADHD. And initially, when I was diagnosed, my teacher was my first grade teacher, Miss Chavez. I remember her name. Her name is Miss Chavez. And she had noticed that I was goofing off in class. I was doodling on my paper. I was just not paying attention, I wasn't hyperactive because I have the inattentive type of ADHD. She noticed I just hardly returned my work in, was goofing off in class. So my parents took me to the doctor, and doctor did a screening on me and was like, yeah, your son has ADHD. And so they put me on Ritalin. And so that went on for a little bit. Fast forward 3 years later, I'm now in third grade, and my third grade teacher's like, there's something else besides ADHD that's going on with him. So my parents took me to the closest neuropsych, which was like 400 miles away. So we did a summer road trip. I live here in Alaska, and the closest neuropsych was in this town called Anchorage. I live in Fairbanks. So it was like 400 miles south, right? So we did a summer road trip, and I was excited. I got to go to Anchorage, which was like a bigger city. So I was excited. And we get there, and it was a 6-hour exam. And it started first thing bright and early in the morning. I believe it started at right around 9. It was 9 or 10 in the morning when this test started. And it went all day. And I remember after that test, them telling my parents, yeah, your son is diagnosed with high functioning autism, or also known as Asperger's syndrome. And at the time, I didn't know what the doctor was talking about, but I do remember the doctor looking at my dad straight in the face, telling him that your son may not be able to hold a job the rest of his life. He may not have a romantic relationship or make friends. Your son, may be living with you guys the rest of his life. He may not be able to work. He may not be able to function as a normal human being. And the doctor also told my dad it's best that you get your son on Social Security and disability right now so he can still make some money. And I remember my dad telling me in the car after this, we were heading out to McDonald's because my dad promised me that's where he'd take me after that. And I remember my dad, as we before we walk into the McDonald's, and I remember my dad looks at me straight in the face and was like, son, don't you let anyone else tell you differently. You can go out there and do anything you want to, regardless if you have ADHD or autism. All right, that's God's gift to you. It's your superpower. It's just up to you to figure out how you go about using it. That doctor doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. And your mom and I are going to dedicate our lives to help you. And that's what they did. My mom was the main one that helped me. My dad initially had told me that, but my dad still struggled to understand what was going on with me. He initially wanted to believe it at first. He told me that initially to kind of make me feel better, because he did notice I started to look a little bit on the sad or depressed side. And mind you, this was in 2008 now, right? 2007, 2008 time frame. And you fast forward a few years, we're now in 2010, 2011. I'm now going into middle school. Now, elementary school was a bit of a struggle for me. If we just rewind back a little bit, so second grade. in second grade, I had a full-on meltdown, right? Full-on what you would call an autistic meltdown. And this was before I knew I was autistic. And I had this meltdown because my dad was in the United States Air Force and he was on a deployment. So he was off, I believe he was in Iraq at this time. And he was gone for like 8 or 9 months, right? I didn't see or hear anything from my dad for 8 or 9 months. And well, we had our school play that I was kind of forced to join. And yeah, I had a full-on autistic meltdown. Ran off stage, ran back to the classroom. Another teacher had to come after me. And yeah, I ended up going home early with my mom. And so now we bring back to 4th grade. We did my 4th grade class did a play, and my mom and dad and my teachers, my SPED teacher, encouraged me to do the play. So I reluctantly did the play, and it was my turn to do my lines. And you know, I had rehearsed them a lot, right? We were doing a play about the planets. I was Saturn, and I did a lot of research about Saturn, and it was my turn, and I choked, and I couldn't say anything. And next thing you know, I start crying. I drop my script, and I run back to my classroom. My mom went after me, and like 2 other teachers went after me. They finally got me. By the time they got me, I was already in the classroom, sitting at my desk crying. And my mom was rubbing my back, telling me, hey, it's okay, just breathe. Just focus on breathing. And was able to get me calm down. I still wasn't able to leave school. I had to finish out the rest of the school day. And I did. So then we fast forward to middle school, and this is when the troubles really started to be seen, right? I'm on Adderall now instead of Ritalin. I was on Ritalin and then Concerta. Now I'm on Adderall. And Adderall was terrible. It was completely terrible. Because I was on Adderall and Zoloft at the same time. And those two mixed together made me suicidal. I had suicidal thoughts. I had a lot of thoughts about suicide. I even tried to. I even attempted to commit suicide. So my mom found out about that. She found out the thoughts I was having. She heard from my siblings. My brother, I think, was the one that caught me trying to kill myself. He told my mom about it. So my mom's like, all right, you're not taking either one anymore. We're getting you back into the doctor immediately. So the doctor gets in. They do another psych exam. They find out that I do also have generalized anxiety disorder and seasonal depression, which is seasonal depression is very common, at least here in Alaska, because of the lack of daylight in the wintertime and the lack of vitamin D. So a lot of people, regardless, even neurotypical people, also sometimes will get seasonal depression. My dad has it. I don't have it as bad as I used to, but so they took me off Adderall. I don't go on ADHD medication again. My mom wanted to do the diet approach because my mom did a lot of research. I think it was Daniel Amen, if I remember, one of the top researchers in ADHD, and he recommended about changing the diet up. So that's what my mom did. So I had a high protein, low simple carb diet. My mom also, I don't know if you guys remember the Pepsi Maxes. It's not Pepsi Zero, but Pepsi Max had more caffeine than regular Pepsi, but had 0 sugar. So my mom started giving me those in my school lunches. And I started having higher protein lunches. And she noticed that I was just as focused as I was on Adderall without the negative side effects. And that's kind of how she did it throughout middle school. Now, intermingling with friends in middle school was a struggle, right? I didn't really meet any friends until like 7th or 8th grade. I met who's now one of my closest friends, Ethan. Me and him initially had met in 3rd grade. So we go back to, I was in 3rd grade, me and him had met on the playground. And we used to throw the football back and forth to each other because we both loved football. And we were friends then. Then he ended up moving away because his dad also was Air Force. So they moved to Idaho, and they were in Idaho until 2012. They came back up here in 2012. We would reunite in middle school, and we would become like 2 peas in a pod like this, right? We were glued together at the hip. And he was kind of like my best friend, right? And it was we kind of went through high school together because he's also neurodivergent. He hasn't really been diagnosed yet, but other than ADHD, but you can just hear him talk and know he's neurodivergent. I love him to death, right? I love him to death. He's one of my closest friends. He's pretty much like a brother to me. And go through high school together, right? Now, bullying didn't really happen in middle school per se. At least I didn't see people talking bad about me. It didn't really happen until high school. High school is when I really started to struggle even more in class, right? I remember because I was in ROTC or JROTC, and I was a junior officer training corps, and I was also playing on the high school football team. And being on the high school football team was the first time I was part of something bigger than myself, right? It gave me that camaraderie, and it introduced me to one of my first loves other than football was weightlifting, right? And this is when I really got into being exposed to being bullied, right? So we went to the neighboring high school to share their practice field, right? Because we had one of the top teams in the state that had won the last 6 or 7 state championships, right? They were on like a 40-game winning streak, right? They were setting records and shit. And we were supposed to play them first game freshman year. So we go practice with the other high school and share their practice field. And we're there, and the other kids on the other team were, talking shit about me, making fun of me because I was different than all the other people. And I remember just feeling depressed. It was the first time I had ever been exposed to that. And I felt so depressed. I felt like maybe I can't play football. Maybe I wasn't meant to play football. I'm just so terrible at football. The coach put me on the team and had me start varsity because he felt bad for me. That's kind of how my mindset was. And it translated into that game. I was trying to make a tackle and missed the tackle. The guy ended up scoring a touchdown. And it just spiraled, this downward spiral. And I would eventually get off the football team after my sophomore year in high school. I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this no more. I didn't want to do it. I got out of ROTC as well because I didn't like having to wear the uniform because at that time, the uniform was very uncomfortable to me. So I got out of that. Other than Ethan, I did have a few other friends. I had my friend David, who I was very close to in high school. And then my friend Spencer. Both of them were also on the football team as well. And then my friend Austin. Those were like the people I really was close to. My friend Austin is diagnosed with high functioning autism and ADHD. My friend David and I were friends up until graduation, and then he kind of went off in the military and did his own thing. Spencer kind of went off, did his own thing. I don't even know what he's done. I haven't heard from him since graduation day. But that's kind of what we did, right? And bullying, there was this kid. His name, I still remember to this day. His name was Jabal, right? And he was a troublemaker. And Jabal, granted, was smaller than me, was shorter than me, would still bully me, right? He would still find ways to bully me, right? Pick on me, talk shit about me. And I just ignored it, right? I was, told to ignore it. Kind of be an ostrich, stick your head in the hole. That's kind of what I did. I was like, if I ignore it, he's going to go away. Because that's what some of the teachers had told me. So that's what I did. I didn't want to fight. I was scared to fight. I was very scared to fight until my senior year. So this went on throughout my entire high school career, right? And finally, my senior year, I have had enough of his bullshit. And one day he said something about my sister. And I don't know what happened, or maybe I was just in a bad mood already that day, but I lost my temper. I lost my cool on him. I grabbed him by the collar of his shirt, slammed him in his locker, slammed his head into the locker, and was like, listen here, motherfucker. If I hear you talking shit about my sister again, I'm going to fucking end your life. And that's not a fucking threat. That's a fucking promise. And I grabbed him by his head, and I slammed his head a couple times into the locker. Around that time, the hall monitor, he walks around right as I slam his head into the locker. And he immediately runs, grabs me, throws me off the guy, tells that guy to go to the office. He grabs me because he had known me since elementary school because he was a hall monitor for middle school as well. And he walks me down the hallway. And he was like, what the hell happened, Cody? You're the nicest kid in the school. What caused you to act out like that? And I told him everything, how he'd been bullying me since middle school, and I tried to tell the teachers. Teachers didn't do anything, and the bullying, and I was just sick and tired of it. And he said something about my sister, and I didn't like it. So, and yeah, he didn't really get me in any trouble. He kind of comforted me. He helped me. Said there's probably other ways you could have gone about this. You could have had other kids get involved, but and I think the only punishment I received was detention. Now, as for dating, I didn't really get much into dating until my sophomore year. Now, my freshman year, I did have a crush on this girl, and she was a cheerleader on the football team. And I had the huge. This was the first time in my life that I've ever had like romantic feelings for a woman, and I just was infatuated with her. I thought the world of her, and I was too scared to even go up and say hi to her. I would be frozen in my tracks. Like I'd go up and talk to her, and then instantly, at the last minute, I just freeze. And eventually, my friends caught on to it. My friends knew I struggled with this, so my friends helped me. My friends were able, at the homecoming dance, my friends got me to dance with her, and I was able to dance with her. And I talked to her, and she rejected me. She was like, "Hey, sorry, I think we should just be friends." And yeah, and that broke my entire heart, because I had it already made up in my head that she was going to say yes, and we were going to date all 4 years of high school. And then as soon as we graduated high school, we were going to get married and start our family together. And she said no. Now my entire world is shattered. And I start making these assumptions about myself that I wasn't good enough. And then you fast forward to my sophomore year, into my sophomore year, beginning my junior year, I get my first girlfriend. And my first girlfriend, her name was Autumn. And that relationship was like 3 or 4 months long. It didn't really last long. It was very toxic, right? This was when I was first introduced to, women being toxic. And it was a bad relationship. She ended up cheating on me. I found out my first day junior year in high school, and around that time I had issues with my wrist. I had broken it my sophomore year playing football, and I didn't get it fixed until that summer going into my junior year. So I had a cast on my wrist, and I remember having a panic attack after finding out she cheated on me, and I went into the bathroom at the school, took my cast, and then hit myself right here with the cast to the point where it started to draw blood. I had blood stains on my cast. I had blood running down my forehead, and I was sent home early. This is first day junior year. So my parents were like, all right, what the fuck's going on? I ended up making a post on Instagram talking about how I was going to end my life. I was going to commit suicide. I was done with living. And one of my classmates who followed me showed their parents it. Their parents called the state troopers. The state troopers come to my house. They talked to my parents about it. They talked to me about it. And that's when my parents were like, all right, we got to get him some help. So this is when I first started to actually get some help for my ADHD, or not my ADHD, just my anxiety, right? Now, along this time, I am seeking some kind of therapy. It wasn't much. There was this place called Talk About that I went to, and then another place called Building Blocks. I went to them for a little bit. It was okay. I didn't really start receiving actual therapy that really did anything until after high school. So I see my first therapist. His name was Matt. Matt really did help me with my anxiety. The anxiety part of the autism and ADHD, the anxiety and depression part, he really helped tremendously. And so you fast forward again to in my junior year, I would get my second girlfriend. This was like my first serious relationship, right? Her name was Haley. Haley and I met, and we would date almost 3 years, right? And it was my first like actual relationship, right? And there was points where I thought, yo, she's the one. And that relationship was a roller coaster, because she had her own disability too. And it was a roller coaster because she had her mother who was narcissistic, to say the least, and was very abusive, and also abused me a little bit, because the first time I met her, I had a gun pointed at my head. So yeah, things were perfect, right, for me and Haley for the first 3 months. Like a dream relationship, right? The perfect relationship. It was like that for 3 months. And then we had our first fight, and she had ODD and blew up on me and didn't talk to me for almost a month. Like, I went almost an entire month without hearing from her, right? And the only way I know that she still loved me was through her sister, right? Her sister was the bridge of communication at that point. And the relationship would end. It was a very tragic end to that relationship. It was a very, towards the end of the relationship, things got really fucking toxic. And this was when I had my second and my final suicide attempt. I had just lost my best friend Mason to suicide. I lost my best friend Mason to suicide. I had I was trying to get a job because I had just graduated high school at this time, and I didn't know what to do. I was done with life. I didn't know what to do because Haley and I were struggling. My dad and I were struggling, and I had just lost my best friend Mason, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna commit suicide." So that night, I took some oxycodone. I found my mom's oxycodone for her arthritis. I took like 5 or 6 of them, thinking, all right, this is gonna kill me. And then it was like, in case it doesn't, I gotta have a backup plan. So I had my knife, right? I had taken my dad's Leatherman out of his toolbox and snuck it into my room. And I took out the blade, right? And I started cutting, and I laid myself wide open. And I remember as I laid myself wide open, I was like, all right, that didn't do it. I'm gonna try hanging myself. And I remember putting the noose around my neck, and I was standing on the stool, and right as I about kicked it away, the instant thought of my mom came into my head about, what is mom going to do? What's mom going to think about this when she finds you? How's her life going to be? And then I couldn't do it. I started crying. My phone around that same time dinged. And I talked about this a little bit on my other channel. I have my other channel that I do reaction videos to. And it was this artist. He's a country rapper by the name of Ryan Upchurch. And it was one of his songs that YouTube was recommending me. And my impulse ADHD brain hears a ding. Oh shit, I gotta look at this. So I pulled out my phone in the midst of committing suicide and tapped on YouTube, on the YouTube recommendation to Upchurch. And that intro is what kept me from actually kicking the stool. I started to cry thinking about my mom, but then I was like, no, we can't chicken out, because you'd be a coward if you don't. And I was like, all right, and then that phone, and then that quote talked about, if you go out, try to be someone else, that ain't legendary. If you go out blazing your own trail, being your own self, that's fucking legendary. And that just spoke to my soul. And I undid the noose. I fell to the floor, and I was crying. I was clinging the knife to my chest, blade tucked in, clinging the knife and my phone to my chest, crying as my wrist is just bleeding. My mom hears me fall. My mom comes running into my room. She sees me laying there, my wrist bleeding, blood on the carpet, a little bit of blood on my bed. She sees me holding the knife with blood on it. And my mom drops to her knees and starts crying. My mom grabs me, and she keeps saying over and over again, I am so sorry. I love you. I love you. I love you. We're going to get you help. It's okay. It's okay. And this was at like 11 o'clock at night. And I would then go back to seeing Matt, because I had saw Matt for a bit, stopped seeing him, I went back to seeing him again. And it was really helpful. And this was when I really started to understand about ADHD, because mind you, this entire time I was not accepting it. So I would then also end up getting into what they call AVA therapy. And AVA therapy helped my autism tremendously, right? My social skills and everything. Like, the old Cody wouldn't be on here doing this video, FYI. So I go untreated. So after all that is done, this is now 2018, 2019 now. I get on Concerta again in 2019. I do it for a couple months and get off of it. Then it's untreated, nothing with ADHD for almost 5 years, right? But in 2020, I would meet one of my bestest friends of all time, right? Her name is Lauren. Lauren has been a big help with my ADHD. She works in the was working in the medical field until her health took a toll. Lauren also has ADHD. She also has a disability, right? She has the intellectual disability disorder, IDD, and she was just recently diagnosed with that. but Lauren is a sweetheart, right? She was the first person that really helped me to accept myself for who I was with my ADHD and my autism, right? Me and her are still to this day best friends. We've been best friends going on 5 years now. And she really helps me, understand what ADHD, accept me for myself, right? And now, as of recently, I'm back on medication. I'm seeking cognitive behavioral therapy, which I will do another video on both of those and medications. We'll do a more in-depth video later. This is just a little overview of my life story, pretty much. And, here we are now, right? And I feel like we're heading in the right direction. And that's why I made this video, so I can take you guys on my journey. So what's going to happen now is we're going to be try to do daily uploads. We're going to be I'm just going to be talking about how I feel and what my goals are. So that's kind of what the goal with this channel is. So anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoy the video. I know if you have ADHD, you probably clicked off that video within the first 30 seconds. I'm aware of that. I know if you did make it this far, either A, you're on your ADHD meds, or B, you're somebody that's trying to help someone else with ADHD. But anyways, hope you guys have a great day. I'm going to go to bed because I got to get up in about 6 hours to go to work. So I got to get some sleep. But anyways, guys, hope you guys have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.